What's poppin', everybody? Pregaming Pigskin, week 2. I got a new guy with me. I got Kyle Edwards, the man, the myth, the legend, looking to talk some NFL football. Pregaming this week. Got a lot of NFL action this week. A ton to get into. I'm the NFL genius, Gene Walzak. Kyle Edwards on the ones and twos, running the stream. How you feeling tonight, Kyle? How you feeling?
I'm good. It's always good to talk NFL, and I think this week's going to be another interesting week. Hopefully, my team can pull out a win, but I'm just happy to watch any game as long as it's good. So I'm good. How about you?
And for those that don't know, Kyle's team, I mean, I know y'all heard my team. I'm an Eagles fan, but Kyle's team is the New England Patriots. They're
Yep.
dealing with some injury problems, man.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough, but you know what? I'll support Brian Hoyer. It's a tough first game for him going to Green Bay, but
I'm
we'll
shocked that
see.
they're going with Brian Hoyer, though. Did you expect that?
I mean, that's Belichick's thing. I think just because Hoyer's so comfortable in the system, it just makes sense right now. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing the young guy Zappy, but it might
Bailey's
be,
happy, baby.
yeah, might be, maybe it's too tough to ask him to go Lambeau Field first time and perform there.
Trial by fire. I've heard that expression before, but I mean, how you gonna know if he's got what it takes? And then you're running. You know what Brian Hoyer is. You know who he is. I don't know. I just like one of those things that like I would 100% give the guy that I don't know 100% what he's gonna do versus Brian Hoyer. But
Right. I mean, hey, Belichick does what he wants. He's not going
you
to
are
listen to
correct.
outside noise. So I'm fully prepared to watch Hoyer try to take on that Packers defense. Hopefully, the
How
running
about that?
game,
How
can
about
step
how
up.
about how about that press conference the other day? Day to day,
That's
day to day,
that. Hey man, that's vintage Belichick.
day to day. What's up, cool? How you
Yeah, what's
feeling
going on,
tonight?
cool?
So we're gonna go live every Thursday night pregame in the NFL week, and we're gonna start with the Thursday night game, and we're gonna get a good crew in for you guys. I got me and Kyle now. Hopefully, want to add a third to the team. Hopefully, Gio joins us. But at the end of the day, man, NFL football is my forte. I've talked to Kyle a little bit, and he seems like a very knowledgeable co-host. Come work with it. And I can't wait to get into these games this week. Let's start with this one Thursday night. You got the
Yeah,
Cincinnati Bengals at home hosting the undefeated, one of two teams left undefeated, Miami Dolphins. Who would
yeah.
have thought week 3 or week 4, the only two undefeated teams left will be the Miami Dolphins and the Philadelphia Eagles?
That is crazy. And if you look at the Bengals, the first 3 games they had, you would have expected them to come into this one undefeated, but they've had their struggles. The Dolphins have beaten some pretty good teams so far, so I'm excited to see what happens tonight. Got great matchups, wide receivers. Both teams have stacked wide receivers. Both teams have had you know good cornerbacks. So I love watching wide receivers against cornerbacks when I watch football. So should be an exciting matchup.
Speaking of wide receiver versus cornerback matchups, see the press conference with Tyreek Hill this week? Tyreek Hill is calling out Eli Apple for Cincinnati. He feels like he's got some unfinished business after Eli Apple was chirping a ton after Cincinnati beat Kansas City last year, left a bad taste in Tyreek Hill's mouth. Tyreek Hill was calling him out this week.
Right. Yeah, they have history, and I feel like that's going to play so much into tonight's game. I'm ready for it. All the going back and forth, the trash talking. I'm here for it.
I guarantee you there'll be at least one personal foul tonight for taunting or for something, a little extracurricular activity in this game. I'm not talking about like a face mask or a personal foul for fighting, for situation like that, punches
Right.
be thrown. That there's no good history here. These two teams do not like each other. I know it seems kind of crazy, but because Miami has not been a playoff team recently, but
Hmm.
Tyreek Hill's really brought a swagger to that Miami offense. And you didn't see two in the press conference. Like, look, if I see him one on one against Eli Apple, I'm throwing Tyreek the ball.
Yeah.
That's it. I don't. I'm throwing. I'm giving him an opportunity.
That's what they brought him there for. They don't call him the cheetah for nothing.
Yeah. So who do you like in the game? What are your thoughts on how it goes down?
I've been going back and forth with this one because the Bengals are, desperate to get back to 500. But I mean, the Dolphins have beaten stacked teams so far, so it's hard to go against them. But I think at the end of the day, I'm gonna go with the Bengals, probably because they'll be the more desperate team. And I just feel like Burrow and Chase, Boyd, Higgins, like they gotta like get it going at some point. Now Mixon, he's been struggling too, but I don't know if he'll be that big of a factor tonight. And I mean, I'm hoping Chase has a big game because I like
This
him a
was one
lot.
of my picks this week. One of my I and listen, I've done really well in the NFL pick 'em the last 3 years.
Hmm.
If you follow wire to wire, you know this. I went 68% last year, 70% in 2020. And right now I'm at 67% for the year so far, 2 out of 3. Well,
Hmm.
basically 6 out of 9. But I love the Bengals in this one. I think the Bengals roll. I think the spread tells you everything you need to know. The Dolphins are 3-0 and they just beat the Buffalo Bills, yet they're underdogs in this game, trying to get that square public money to go on the Miami Dolphins in this one. I think that the Bengals roll in this one. I really do. And we talk about the injuries to Tua and Waddle, both of them kind of limping in this game. But I think the bigger issue is the issues and the injuries in Miami's secondary. Miami's a
Hmm.
blitz happy team. They blitz a ton. So Joe Burrow is one of the best in the league against the blitz
Right.
for since he's been in the NFL. I think Burrow has a field day, man. I took a lot of props in this game. I like the over 275 for Joe Burrow passing yards. I like the over 75 and Jamar Chase receiving yards. I think Burrow the chase is going to be huge tonight. And I think if Miami blitzes and tries to get after Joe Burrow, I think this ends up being a high scoring game. I think the Bengals get up big early. I think the Miami Dolphins play catch up. I think that it ends up being a very high scoring game, 38-24 Cincinnati. I have a little fun, just a fun one, because I have my real bets in on the things I think that are going to happen, but I also put like a really square parlay, like a very like deep parlay.
Hmm.
Bengals minus 13 and a half, over 54. Just I alternate the line, alternate the spread. Jamar Chase over 125, Joe Burrow over 350, and Jamar Chase with 2 touchdowns. It's like a $20
Okay.
bet that pays out $7,000. So
Wow. Okay.
that's called my lottery ticket for the night. I threw a lottery ticket in there, but
Okay.
I really believe it's got a good chance of hitting. I think that Burrow to Chase is huge tonight. And if they try to double Chase, you still have Higgins, you still have Boyd. Joe Mixon's been
Yep.
waiting to break out. That offensive line, who they spent a lot of money on, is not been great this year. They look like they're starting to get a little chemistry last week versus the Jets. Offensive lines, I don't care how much money you spend, they have to be a cohesive unit. There's a
Yep.
reason that we don't talk about like we talk about wide receivers and running backs and quarterbacks. And the offensive line we talk about as a whole, 5 players,
Hmm.
because it's a cohesive unit. It's not a one or the other. You can't have a great left tackle and then 4 scrubs and have a good offensive line. It just doesn't work.
Right.
Doesn't matter. So I think that Bengals offensive line is hungry to get out there and hit somebody tonight. And I think Miami Dolphins defensive line that does not record many sacks as a whole.
Hmm.
They record a lot of their sacks from the blitz. And Joe Burrow is a very good quarterback at picking up the blitz. So I like the Bengals big in this one, man. Big.
Okay. Well, I mean, with your record, I'm kind of happy we're on the same line with the Bengals here. I do think that you did mention Boyd. I think he's a player that I think could have a big night because, like you said, I could see the Dolphins maybe swaying their defensive backfield towards Chase to try to slow him down. I mean, I think that'd be a mistake by them because Boyd and Higgins, like they're a lot to deal with over the middle, and they can break a big one at any moment in the game. So um, I think that's kind of why I was leaning towards the Bengals. But I would like to see Chase have a big game. probably
Any other
for
matchups
fantasy reasons.
outside the wide receiver cornerback matchups? Are there any matchups that you're looking forward to in this game that you think are fun matchups to break down?
Well, I mean, I guess I would go with the Bengals offensive line because that's their struggles so far have led to Mixon struggles. And we know that Mixon, when he's right and they can open up holes for him, he's a top level running back in the AFC. So if they really are starting to get their stuff together, then we can start seeing production from Mixon go up week after week. So I guess it'd be Mixon versus the front seven of Miami. Because if Miami goes,
I like where you're going. I like the offensive line of Cincinnati
Mhm,
versus the defensive line of. I love the trenches, man. The battles in the trenches are where a lot of these games are won and lost.
right,
Uh, y- we talk about Tom Brady being so great, right? But I
hmm,
think part of the reason he's been so great for so long in his career is he understands how to like coverage checks on the offensive line to be able to pick up blitzes and see where they're coming from. Because you ever notice the games where Tom Brady gets really beat are games when the defense can game plan pressure in his face.
right,
When he
yep,
gets put on his ass early in the game and up the middle, Tom Brady struggle. Any quarterback struggle. I don't care how good you are.
right,
Go back to the Super Bowl when the Chiefs played the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the whole world thought the Chiefs were going to run through them. And then Patrick Mahomes looked pedestrian. Well, his
yep,
left tackle and his right tackle were out for the game. They didn't play the game. They were hurt.
hmm,
So offensive line is so big, and I think that Cincinnati offensive line and the Lyle Collins line that he came into the season with, saying your protection is my paycheck. Like he said that to Joe Burrow. I think that has to the buck has to stop with that offensive line, and I think
right,
it will. Jets defense is very underrated this year, in my opinion. The Jets defense as a whole. Robert Saleh is a defensive minded coach, and they really didn't get to Burrow as much as Dallas and Pittsburgh did prior
hmm,
weeks. I think this will actually be the easiest defense that Joe Burrow has to face in the 4 weeks of the NFL season, especially pass defense. Because
yeah,
I think the Jets are defensively are better than Miami, and I know Dallas and Pittsburgh are when they're both
right,
healthy.
hmm, yeah. I mean, that is kind of the thing with the Jets. I think people pay so much attention to their quarterback position and lack of weapons in the wide receiving group and the running back group. But like you said, Salah can usually have pretty good defenses with the Jets. Just that they're just out there so much because the offense isn't good enough that they lose a lot of games each season. But yeah, I mean, I completely agree. Miami, they kind of play Buffalo style because Buffalo's another team that kind of likes to get up on everybody and blitz a lot. And it works against some teams, but the quarterbacks that are real decisive, your Burrows and all that, they actually welcome that as long as the offensive line can keep them clean for a couple of seconds, at least give them the chance to spot the hot route or whatever and get rid of the ball, they'll be fine. So I do agree with you with
I
the Bengals today.
and I couldn't agree with you more. We go Miami. That Bengals O line is horrid. Okay, cool. I disagree, but that's okay. I love hearing your opinion, and it's the public's opinion right now. Miami's 3-0. There's been more money poured in on the Miami Dolphins Super Bowl odds since week 2 than any other team in the NFL. So whatever that tells you. Now
Right.
I think it was Jake Paul and DJ Khaled throwing $1 million on him after week 2 was what helped that. But
Mm-hmm.
all right, so let's touch on some of the other games this week, and we'll
Okay.
go in order. We'll start with the London game. Eggs in football, kegs
Right.
and eggs. Nothing like it. Minnesota Vikings are going to play. The host of the game would be the New Orleans Saints. They're the home team, but it will be in London. What are your thoughts on that game? Vikings, Kirk Cousins coming off a huge come from behind victory over
Mm-hmm.
Detroit. New Orleans coming off getting their butts kicked at Carolina. Baker Mayfield, Laviska Shenault with that 75-yard touchdown
Yep.
reception. What do you think about that game?
I mean, I've said this for a couple of years. Like, I'm probably a little bit bigger on Kirk Cousins than a lot of people are. I know he's kind of a, punchline to a lot of jokes, but if you really look at his numbers, he's, somewhere around middle tier of the NFL, and he will give you a couple performances a season where he looks like, possible top 10 quarterback. I know nothing crazy like, top 3 or anything like that in the game, but he's more than capable of getting the Vikings wins. I mean, you add in Justin Jefferson. It seemed like they got Thielen a little bit more into the act last week. So I'm completely going with the Vikings in this one. The Saints, Jameis Winston is just still too turnover prone for me. And his decision making is just it's still not there where it should be for, a guy who looked so dominant at Florida State, was taken so high in the draft. But I don't know. It's just something with him. I just got to go with the Vikings in this one.
Oh, listen, you're more than welcome to go with the Vikings in this one, and I'll let you know that. And this is just because I'm such a heavy sport like NFL gambler. More public money has come on the Vikings than any other team in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
I think most fans love the Vikings this week. I'm on the other end of this, and I'll tell you why. I like the Saints to bounce back in this one.
Okay.
Minnesota just had a high emotional win versus a division opponent. They can't come from behind win. This is called, in my opinion, called the exhale game. After you get that win versus Detroit, you get to fend them off. You have a 2-1 record, kind of feeling yourself a little bit. You got to go across the pond. You got to go play against a very good defense.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with you. I think Jameis Winston's cheeks, man. I think he's terrible. I think he's ass. And I say that, and I mean that. Like, I really believe Jameis Winston is awful. I think Kirk Cousins is a good NFL quarterback. Statistically, he's the most underrated quarterback maybe in the history of the NFL. If you do a blind resume with Kirk Cousins versus some of the all-time greats, you would
Oh yeah.
choose Kirk Cousins' resume blindly, not knowing who it is.
Right.
What hurts Kirk Cousins is his 2-11 record in prime time. And
Exactly.
I consider a London game prime time. It's the only game going on. All lights are on. I think that I'd look at him as a guy that winces under pressure. And when you're playing in front of that huge crowd overseas, I think that New Orleans Saints defense causes tons of havoc, tons of turnovers, and shuts down Kirk Cousins and that offense. I got news for Justin Jefferson fans. I think Justin Jefferson has a great year this year, but he only had one good week. 2 straight
Right.
weeks, he's been absolutely blanketed. We talk about Darius Slay and what he did, but what a lot of other people don't realize is Jeffrey Okudah for Detroit Lions has been absolutely shutting down, and he shut down Justin Jefferson. He drew the role of Devontae Smith week 1 versus Philadelphia. Devontae Smith had 0 catches. I like the Saints in this one. I think it's another tough week for Justin Jefferson. You're going to line him up versus Marshawn Lattimore. The Saints have a great pass rush, and
Mm-hmm.
Kirk Cousins is one of those quarterbacks that once you hit him a few times, he starts getting happy feet and throwing the ball to the other team. We've seen it Monday night versus Philadelphia. He looked atrocious,
Right.
terrible. And then he comes back versus Detroit and has a very good comeback to win that football game. I like the Saints in this one, though. I think the Saints win this one rather easily. And if I had to put a score on it, I'm going to go low scoring. I think that Dennis Allen is going to try to control tempo, control the clock. I got Saints 24, Vikings 13 in a game that's not as close as that score would indicate.
Okay. I mean, my thinking with a Viking score was that, it was probably going to be low scoring because, like you said, like I can, agree with the Saints having a great defense. My only thing was I was kind of taking it that I guess I would trust Cousins a little bit more than Winston. But
It's funny. I probably would too. I just trust the Saints defense more than I trust Kirk Cousins. And I think that a lot of times when we match up quarterbacks, Kyle, I think that we match them up like they're playing against each other, but they're
Right, right.
not. Jameis Winston's playing against the Vikings defense, and they don't
Hmm.
really scare me. I think that that defense has let up points outside of week one versus Green Bay, which, by the way, Green Bay has been making a habit out of playing like dog shit on week one. But outside of week one, Jared Goff has moved the ball. Jalen Hurts has moved the ball. I don't see that Vikings defense being some juggernaut. And if you really look at that Green Bay game, Aaron Rodgers moved the ball. Christian Watson dropped a 75-yard touchdown on the
Right.
opening drive of the game. I just don't see that Vikings defense being very heralded. Um, I don't have much fear at that Vikings defense, and I think that Dennis Allen will slow the game down for Jameis Winston, hand the ball off, hopefully get Alvin Kamara a little bit more involved,
Yeah. Yeah.
let that running game and let that defense handle business. That's why I think it's going to be a low scoring game over in London.
Yeah, I completely agree.
All right, so we got the opening of the 1 o'clock games. 1 o'clock games this week, they seem a little bit light. I'll just be honest with you guys. Jacksonville at Philadelphia. This is a game, and if you know me, I'm an Eagles fan, and you know I'm normally very crucial of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Hmm.
Like I'm critical of them. I constantly I've been critical of Jonathan Gannon, the Eagles defensive coordinator. I've been critical of Jalen Hurts in the past. I thought he couldn't make anticipation throws. Well, I'm eating crow right now. I think Nick Sirianni and Jonathan Gannon and Jalen Hurts, who for my money is number 2 or number 3 in the MVP race right now through 3 weeks behind
Hmm.
only Lamar Jackson. I think that the Philadelphia Eagles roll rather convincingly over Jacksonville. Jacksonville won a huge game versus the Colts in Florida, in Jacksonville, then
Right.
traveled across the country, won another huge game at Los Angeles, and then they have to travel all the way back across the country to play a Philadelphia team that literally took a bus down to Washington last week, and it was home sleeping in their own bed Sunday night, and got to prepare all week. I think the one thing I want to talk about with this game is the Doug Peterson reunion. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think the Eagles win this one handily. I've been surprised by Jacksonville. I mean, I know a lot of people are kind of down on Trevor Lawrence after the past couple of years, but got to realize that whole Urban Meyer experiment down there, like that set the franchise back a little bit because, you know, Meyer he just wasn't into it. Peterson, on the other hand, we saw Peterson work magic with that Eagles team where Wentz was having his MVP season, went down, and then he took Nick Foles, rode with him. They won the Super Bowl, be my Patriots, which I mean, it stung, but it was all right. So we've seen Peterson do this kind of thing with quarterbacks, and if you look at Trevor Lawrence, I mean, he's definitely more talented than Nick Foles. So it was only a matter of time before that got going. I would like to see Etienne get it going. He struggled so far. I know he missed all of last season, which this is basically his rookie season if you look at it. So I'm sure he'll come around. But James Robinson, which I mean, I don't understand why he wasn't like set in stone as a starter after his last season. But I mean, Jacksonville is definitely coming on. They're a team that's maybe a year or two away from like really dominating that division. Probably, although they may win it this season because the Colts have been, I mean, they've been rough to watch, and the Titans are kind of trying to figure some stuff out. But yeah, Eagles, I'm all on them because Jalen Hurts actually has surprised me a little bit as well because I thought, kind of like you watching from the outside, that he struggled mightily last season, but he's playing MVP level, so he's definitely stepped up. And Devontae Smith, he's come on lately to pair with AJ Brown, who's been great as well. So yeah, uh, I'm fully on board with the Eagles in this one.
I agree with. Listen, For Jacksonville fans tuning in, let me tell you, I think the Jaguars win the AFC South. I think they win that division. I think
Yeah.
the Titans are in shambles. I think the Colts are, I get it that they get that win over Kansas City, which by the way, I'll get into when we talk about Kansas City and we talk about that game. Um, I think that's an absolute joke. I think a referee should not decide the game the way he did. That personal foul on Chris Jones was absolutely atrocious on
Hmm.
4th and 15. I think that the refs decided that game, and I don't think it was right. Let me just
Right.
be
Yeah.
clear there. But I'll be clear. I think that the Jacksonville Jaguars win the AFC South. I don't think that they're a bad football team at all. Doug Peterson's a players coach. Trevor Lawrence was the unquestioned number one pick the year he came out. I
Hmm.
don't like I don't know why people gave up so quickly on Trevor Lawrence. Systems matter, schemes matter, coaching matters. And that
Exactly.
team did not buy into Urban Meyer. All the reports and stories that came out of that franchise, that place was in shambles.
Hmm.
Doug Peterson came in, he developed the offensive line, spent a ton of money, got Brandon Sheriff in town, uh, added weapons. They had to overpay Christian Kirk to get him to come to Jacksonville, paying off right now.
Yeah.
Zay Jones looks good. James Robinson, who, by the way, had an incredible season 2 years ago, wasn't gifted the starting running back role by Urban Meyer at all. He was basically treated like he was a second-class citizen in Jacksonville, showing why he should have been the starter all year last year.
Yep.
Travis Etienne has had a slow start for the season, but one thing I will tell you is last week versus the Los Angeles Chargers, particularly in the second half, he started looking like that ring rust was coming off. He was going to look rusty. Missed the
Right.
entire rookie season with Liz Frank injury. Looked sluggish the first two games. Definitely did. He started looking like Travis Etienne last year. What's up, Coach Dante, Freddie Henderson? Cool. I appreciate y'all tuning in. We're talking big pigskin right now, pre-gaming some pigskin. But I really love what Jacksonville's doing, and I think that the reunion with Doug Peterson, Doug's gonna want to win this one. It's gonna mean a lot to him. But with that being said, I just think the Philadelphia Eagles are too much. Philadelphia
Yeah.
Eagles notably play better defense at home. I think if you matched up player for player, I would take Slay and Bradbury over Christian Kirk, and Zay Jones at the wide receiver positions. I think the Eagles have the uh, the advantage almost anywhere on the football field. So I'll take the Philadelphia Eagles this one to go 4-0. Um, what's up, Key?
Yeah. What's going on,
But
Key?
yeah, I got the Eagles to roll. I think the Eagles win this one 31-13. I think Trevor Lawrence struggles, but that will not be indicative of what happens with Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars this season. I think they win the AFC South.
Right. Yeah. Like you said, he was just a product of, a lot of these media people like to be all hot takes. So they're quick to bury a guy when just got to give him some time to get used to the NFL speed and all that. I mean, Lawrence wasn't that dominant at Clemson for no reason, you know?
Correct. Sunshine won a national championship as a true freshman.
Yeah.
Sunshine. Got to give him credit, man. Trevor
Yeah.
Lawrence is that guy. I'm not, I can't stand when people write off young quarterbacks. Like, we'll talk about another one in a minute with Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears. They
Yeah.
play the New York Giants this year, and people already writing off Justin Fields. Chicago media writing off Justin Fields. Let me just stop you for 1 minute. The Bears are 2-1. They have the 31st ranked offensive line in the NFL. They have the 31st ranked receiving core in the NFL. So second to worst receiving core,
Yep.
second to worst offensive line. And we're writing off Justin Fields like it's his fault. Give Eberflus time. Give Justin Fields time. Next year, the Chicago Bears have over $100 million of cap space. Their cap is loaded next year.
Yeah.
They can start surrounding Justin Fields. Do you realize that they're still paying Nick Foles, Andy Dalton? They're still paying players on this year's salary cap, dead cap money, retired players. Kick it down the bucket. Matt Nagy, and I forgive me, I forget the old GM. Awful, by the way. Did an awful job in Chicago. I
Yeah.
I don't I don't
Was it
I really
Ryan
just
Pace?
Ryan Pace, that's correct. I could not stand what Chicago did to him. And you're gonna put Justin Fields' feet to the fire like he wasn't a superstar quarterback at Ohio State. Give that man an opportunity with receivers that can catch the football. You got Cole Kmet and Darnell Mooney as your 1 and 2 options.
Right.
Come on, man.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm a big Justin Fields guy as well, so I'm definitely one of those who's willing to give him a chance to figure it out, give the Bears, front office a chance to put more players around him because yeah, basically it's just Komet, Mooney, and Montgomery. And Montgomery's hobbled,
Montgomery's
so now
hurt.
it's yeah. So now it's what
Khalil
Herbert, the
Herbert, who
backup.
played
Yeah,
well. But
right.
with that being said, who you like in that game? Chicago at New York. By the way, Daniel Jones, Justin Fields and Daniel Jones are the two most hit quarterbacks in the NFL right now. They're playing each other this week. You got the Giants at home, hobbled into this game with Shepard
Right.
hurting, Shepard out for the year. Saquon looks like he's back to old Saquon. No David Montgomery this week. This looks pretty easy, right? This is a Giants win, right?
I'm actually going Bears in this one. Um, I
I
I mean
like it.
it's
I was trying to set you up.
I saw that, I caught on to that, but yeah, I was going with the Bears because you know I just think as long as they let Fields kind of improvise and all that, that's basically their best chance to win right now. And you know, Barkley, yes, he does look like he's getting back there, and I feel bad for Shepard because he was just going on a simple route, took a bad step, clutching at his knee. I mean, that speaks fully to that field over there in I guess what's their
New
stadium,
York,
but in New
MetLife,
York.
MetLife.
Yeah, MetLife. They definitely have to do something about that because that's crazy. We can't have guys tearing up their knee when they're not even really doing anything other than jogging down the field. And this day and age, with all the technology that these teams have, put in some safe turf or something. That doesn't make sense to me. But yeah, I'm with the Bears on that game.
I'm actually with the Bears too. I trust Justin Fields a lot more than I trust Daniel Jones. I think that the Bears defense. I'll tell you one thing that really stands out to me is that Bears defense. Roquan Smith.
Yeah,
That guy is special, man. You're talking about a special player at the linebacker position. I loved him coming out of college. I love him even more in the pros. One of the most underrated linebackers in football, Roquan Smith, keeps that Bears defense. It's funny because even then the Bears are terrible. They never have a terrible defense. And
right.
I think a lot of that has to do with Roquan Smith. Akeem Hicks was there last year, and when he was healthy, you added both of them. I really thought that was a formidable defensive tackle linebacker combo. But Roquan Smith keeps that team formidable defensively. I like Justin Fields in this one. I really do. I think the Bears, the cardiac Bears, go 3-1. They get another win this week. They beat the Texans. They got that early win versus the 49ers in the
Hmm.
monsoon. They might be playing another monsoon in New York. The weather's calling for a lot of rain from this
Yeah,
hurricane. I like the Bears in this one, guys.
yeah. It doesn't need to be pretty as long as you're up at the
That's,
end. That's all that matters.
that's big facts. Browns Falcons. Browns 1-point favorite at Atlanta. I'll start with this one.
Okay.
I think this is a prototypical game to where you would think the Browns could run the ball and dominate over Atlanta, and I just don't see it that way. I think Marcus Mariota is playing good football. I think the Browns are a good defensive team, but I have no faith in Jacoby Brissett. I think Nick Chubb runs wild again. I
Hmm.
think this is a very, very close football game. It's very tough to pick a winner, but I don't think this is a game where Cleveland just goes in there and runs over the Atlanta Falcons. I don't care what anything. 2-1 Browns. I don't see it. I don't see a good football team. I would rather have Marcus Mariota than Jacoby Brissett. I'd rather have the Atlanta Falcons receiving core with Drake London and Kyle Pitts over Amari Cooper and David Njoku. Would rather have it.
Yeah.
I think where Cleveland really can win this football game is with their offensive line and their run game. I think that Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, they need to come out and they need to be able to hammer the ball. I think this is a really close game. I might lean Browns, but I would not be surprised if Atlanta wins this football game. Mariota's been playing good football, just got a win at Seattle. Should almost had a win week 1 versus New Orleans, almost had a win week 2 versus the Rams. Finally got off the schneid at Seattle. They get to go home where they play a much better at home. What do you think for this one?
All right, so I said I'm a Patriots fan, but I actually live in the Atlanta area now. So I've been paying attention to the Falcons as well. So this one, when I was looking at it, I'm going with the Browns only because of their rushing attack with Chubb and Kareem Hunt. And I'm really only going with that because the Falcons still have their issues defensively with tackling.
They do.
They miss a lot of tackles, and Nick Chubb is not a guy you want to miss tackles with because, I mean, he'll run over guys, he'll juke guys, he'll turn a 10-yard run into a 50-yard run easily. And then when he comes out of the game, change of pace is Kareem Hunt, who's got, that same power to his game. But I do agree with you that Mariota has played really well this season. When they first announced he was going to be the starter, I mean, I was counting the weeks until they were probably going to turn to Desmond Ritter. But if you look at them, even though they're 1-2, Mariota has not been the problem for them. Now, I would like to see him get Kyle Pitts more involved because Kyle Pitts has had a slow start to the season. But we saw him wake up a little bit against the Seahawks. And Drake London, I love his fit in this offense. It makes you wonder if Calvin Ridley were around and you had Ridley and London opposite each other with Pitts running through the middle, how much better will this offense be? And can't overlook Cordero Patterson either, which is funny because,
everyone loves to write that guy off, man, but he's just a bruising back that constantly breaks tackles.
Yeah, and you can actually thank Belichick for that because before he got to New England, he was pretty much a, I guess, failed experiment at wide receiver because a lot of teams would try him out there and then he didn't get a lot of playing time. And Belichick put him in the backfield and he showed that, you give him a lane, he'll make one quick cut and he's gone. And then he still got the special teams element from him as well. But I just think Chubb and Kareem Hunt will pose too much of an issue for that Falcons defense. And Brissett's actually been a little bit better than I thought as well.
I could see that. I really can. I look at this. I look at these two teams. They look a lot more evenly matched to me than most people would think. I would not be surprised if Atlanta wins that football game. I wouldn't. And I think it would be on the back of Cordero Patterson and that Falcons offense. I think it's funny because if the Browns win the game, it's low scoring.
Right.
If the Falcons win the game, it'll be high scoring. I think you can
I can
parlay both and go Browns under, Falcons over, and win one of them.
I completely agree with that.
Commanders at Cowboys. This is one of my upset specials of the week. Cowboys are only 3-point favorites, which means they're looking at them as an even team versus the Commanders in Dallas. There's 3 undefeated quarterbacks in the NFL right now. Jalen Hurts, Tua, and Cooper Rush.
Yeah.
Cooper Rush is 2-0 as a starter. The Commanders, Carson Wentz just got sacked 9 times by the Philadelphia Eagles. They look like they were just a shell of a football team. Philadelphia just embarrassed them. Meanwhile, Dallas went into New York, got themselves a win at New York. Didn't seem to have any issues in that game. It was close for a while. They pulled away, not turning the ball over. Ezekiel Elliott, CeeDee Lamb. They should get Dalton Schultz back this game. Upset special for me, though. Give me the Commanders. I like Carson Wentz and the Commanders to bounce back at Dallas. I think the Cooper Rush, his undefeated streak ends at 2. I don't think he's that good of a quarterback. I think the Cowboys know he's not that good of a quarterback. I think that if they thought he was that good of a quarterback, they wouldn't have released him. They released him, and 31 other teams had an opportunity to claim him. And then they got him back on their practice squad, then elevated him to their backup quarterback role.
Right.
Dallas Cowboys did not see anything in Cooper Rush, and I think them starting Jason Peters at left tackle is going to be hilarious because Montez Sweat is going to give him everything he can handle. And I watched those battles when Jason Peters was 4 years younger.
Right.
You don't want to see it this year. Montez Sweat's going to destroy that edge. I honestly think that I think Washington wins this football game, and I think it's an ugly one. I think it's 16-9.
Okay. So I was thinking about this one. Once again, it's another match I went back and forth with. But the one thing that stuck out with me was 9 sacks last week. I mean, it's tough to get sacked 9 times in a game. And then pairing that with Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence for Dallas. I mean, I just can't feel confident enough that the I almost said Redskins, the Commanders' offensive line will stop those two guys from getting into the backfield and giving Wentz problems.
I'm going to stop you there.
Okay.
I do not put those 9 sacks on the Commanders' offensive line. Those 7 of those 9 sacks lie strictly 100% on Carson Wentz holding the football. I am tired of him going from Philadelphia to Indianapolis to now Washington, and it's constantly the line. If you watch Carson Wentz, he drops back 5 steps, 7 steps, and holds on to the football. If you have a 7-step drop in the NFL and are not throwing the ball off your back foot on that 7th step, you're going to get sacked. It's not realistic. The Eagles' defensive line got to the quarterback. There's definitely times where that Carson Wentz should have been sacked 2-3 times. But 6 of those sacks minimum were on him holding the football. He does it constantly. I don't think the Washington Commanders line is as bad as people believe they are. I think that Ron Rivera will have a better game plan this week. I think they'll run the football. I think Washington will get up early in this one. I think they start strong, and I think they win this one 16-9. Ugly score, low scoring. I think Washington wins, though.
I mean, I do agree with you with the Wentz holding the football thing. That's why I've never been a big fan of his, where especially when he went to Indy and people thought like he was going to be the guy to, get them into the playoffs and be a contender. I never believed that. But I mean, quarterback play and the offensive line play have to work together. So
Agreed.
when I said about the offensive line, I wasn't really putting it all on them because it's tough.
Good.
Right. It's tough asking them to, block Micah Parsons or DeMarcus Lawrence for longer than they have to because the guy behind them is just standing there looking for whatever he's looking for. So if that's been his issue, I don't see why that would change all of a sudden. But like you said, if Ron Rivera can game plan, use the running game, maybe screen game, because we know Dallas would probably like to blitz Wentz because of last week. So get a couple of screens going, maybe you have them hold back a little bit. Then maybe Wentz can be more effective that way. I just don't know if his mentality is going to change enough, at least this week, for it to be enough for them to win. And, same thing with Cooper Rush. He's not, setting the world on fire or anything like that. He's just been a steady hand and has done enough for the Cowboys to win these games. I do think with Pollard and Elliott in the backfield, I'm probably more of a fan of Pollard right now. I think Elliott is definitely slowing down, but the two of them work well together. If they can get them going, it makes Cooper Rush's job that much easier. And CeeDee Lamb, I mean, you saw the catch he made last week, the one-hander in the back of the end zone. I mean, any quarterback would love to have that option out there. But I do agree with you, low-scoring game, but I would go with the Cowboys on the winning side of that.
I also saw the 55-yard pass that he dropped.
I saw that too.
Right in his breadbasket. I think CeeDee Lamb has concentration issues. I think he's much better late game scenario when his juices are flowing, the blood's flowing. But I think he has concentration issues mid-game. I really believe that. There's 3 games. We got to get into a bunch more games, but there's 3 games, and I'm going to play a little roulette here. I'm going to let you pick, okay?
Okay.
We got the Chargers, Texans, Seahawks, Lions, Jets, Steelers. And then this is this is flushing the toilet this week. Those three games are awful. I'll let you
Mm-hmm.
pick which one we break down because we got to kind of move forward. So you got Thursday Night Football coming up shortly. Which one of those three games would you think will be the most competitive game, the most fun game to talk about?
All right, so we have Chargers, Texans, Jets, Steelers, Lions,
Seahawks.
Seahawks. Maybe Jets, Steelers.
I like that one. I'm glad that you
Because
brought that
Zach
one up.
Wilson
That's what
coming back.
yep.
Yeah,
I'm glad that you brought that one up. That's the one I wanted to talk to. I'll give you my quick winners on the other ones. I think the Lions beat the Seahawks,
I
and I
agree.
think the Chargers get a win versus the Texans. I don't think the Texans are that good,
I
but I think
agree.
neither football game is a good football game. But let's
I
get
agree
into
with you.
Jets Steelers. This is a fun one because Zach Wilson's return is this week. The spread is only Steelers minus 3.5, which lead in Pittsburgh. No TJ Watt leads you to believe that they think the Steelers are going to win this game and they're trying to get you to bet on the Steelers. I don't know about that one. This is one of those games where I think Zach Wilson and the Jets jump out on Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh might be one of the worst teams in football this year. And if I take it a step further, I think this might be the game that gets Mitch Trubisky benched. I think this might be the game that gets Kenny Pickett involved.
I agree.
I think the Jets might win this one. I really do. I'm picking a lot of upsets this week, but I definitely see them keeping it close. I think Robert Saleh, I'll never forget it. Week 1, after the Ravens won that game, what did he say? He said, I'm taking receipts. I'm holding receipts for anybody that doesn't think that. And you know what he did next week? Came back and beat the Cleveland Browns. Now,
Yep.
they lost last week to the Bengals. I think Bengals are a lot better football team than their 1-2 record. I think they'll prove that tonight. But I think the Steelers are a lot. I think they're a lot. I don't think they're a very good football team. I think they're one of the worst teams in the NFL right now. The offense does not move the ball. The offensive line is not good. And when you're missing TJ Watt, your number one guy that wreaks havoc on that defense. Now, they still got a lot of defensive playmakers. Miles Jack, Minka Fitzpatrick. They still got playmakers on that defensive side of the ball. But I think Zach Wilson comes back, and with all that speed, Elijah Moore, Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, Michael Carter, they got a lot of weapons on that team. I like the Jets in this one.
I do as well. Because I was about to say, I think this is a game where Zach Wilson makes his first appearance. I wouldn't be surprised second half we might see Kenny Pickett. Because Trubisky just is what he is at this point. I mean, he should be a backup quarterback. I get, them starting him because you want to give Pickett some time to, I guess, learn or whatever. But Trubisky, he's just not it right now. And you might as well throw Pickett out there. He's the Pittsburgh guy. Give the fans something to rally behind. And who knows? Maybe you hit lightning in a bottle. He gets you a couple of wins you weren't expecting. And then you could build off of that for next year. Plus, offensively with Pittsburgh, it's basically just Najee Harris. He's really the only guy you really have to worry about. But offensive line's not good enough to give him running lanes to be productive. So a lot of times he's just running into brick walls in the front seven.
He's also battling a Liz Frank injury.
Yeah.
He's had that injury re-aggravated now twice. That's an injury that cost Travis Etienne the entire season last year.
Yep.
Those injuries aren't not much to play with. They're really tough to play through.
Yeah. And as a running back, you don't want foot injuries,
Big facts.
That's the worst thing you could have. So
we both got the Jets. Look at that, man. We agreeing on our first show together, Kyle. I like it. I like it. All right, so we got 2 more 1 o'clock games. There's a lot of 1 o'clock games. There's only 3 4 o'clock games, and then we got to go into the 2 primetime matchups. So 2 more 1 o'clock games. These are the biggest 2 1 o'clock games, in my opinion, as far as seedings wise. You got the 1-2 Tennessee Titans headed into Indianapolis to take on the 1-1-1 1-1-1 Indianapolis Colts. I like Frank Wright and the Colts to get right here. I really do. I think they build off that win. I think that Jonathan Taylor has a big game on the ground. I think the Indianapolis Colts win this one. Another ugly football game. I don't think either one of these teams are very good. But I'll go 24-21, Indy.
I mean, this is kind of becoming a habit on here, but I like the Colts in this one as well. I'm not a big fan of Tennessee this season. Tannehill took a big step back. I feel like that playoff loss did so much against him that now he's broken from now on. Derrick Henry, they've put so much on his shoulders these past few years. I feel like it's only a matter of time before he completely breaks down. And then outside of that, the Harold Landry injury on the Tennessee defense was a big loss for them. And if you're going up against a guy like Jonathan Stewart, you need a tough linebacker there to, get in the hole, stop him at the line. Landry not there. I agree that Jonathan Taylor has a field day.
You got back to Jonathan Taylor. I like Jonathan Stewart, though. A little Jonathan Stewart mention that you gave. Old school Carolina Panthers, Jonathan Stewart. You said Stewart, but you got back to Taylor. But
Yeah.
you got my mind rolling from like 2008 Madden, bro. Jonathan Stewart. But I like it. I like the Colts also. I just think they're the better football team. And I think the biggest thing that hurt Ryan Tannehill was losing A.J. Brown.
Right.
Treylon Burks, I think, will develop into an A.J. Brown-like receiver. Bobby Trees, Robert Woods.
Mm-hmm.
I think Robert Woods will eventually develop. I got a question for you, Kyle. This is a spur-of-the-moment question. Shot out of a cannon. Rank these three quarterbacks in order of success for their franchise that they currently play on.
Okay.
Kenny Pickett, Malik Willis, Desmond Ridder. We talked about all three of those teams starting quarterbacks, and eventually it might lead to backup quarterbacks. What level of success do you see with those three young quarterbacks?
I would probably put Ridder 3. I'd go Willis 2, Pickett 1.
I have the exact same list. I think Desmond Ridder is cheeks, bro. I think Desmond Ridder is ass. I know you're in the Atlanta area. Listen to me. Listen to me. I don't know how much college football you watch, Kyle. You might watch a ton, might watch none. But most people watch the college football playoff last year.
Yeah.
And Cincinnati played against Alabama. And I understand Alabama was a very good football team.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that. But Desmond Ridder looked scared. He looked like Footsteps Falco back there. Shane Falco, the resurgence, the old, I'm kidding, from the replacements. But that's the way he looked, bro. He looked awful. He looked scared. He looked like he's not ready for that. Listen, it's very easy to win in Cincinnati's little old Big East conference. But it's not easy to win when you play against NFL talent. And Desmond Ridder looked scared. He did not look good.
Right.
I agree. I have the same list you do. I think Malik Willis could be good. I think Kenny Pickett will be good.
Yeah. Ridder will definitely need the longest, time on the sideline, watching and all the practice, the reps and all that to be successful. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Arthur Smith will be long gone before Desmond Ridder actually sees the football field.
I can agree with that. Yeah.
All right. So the 1 o'clock game that everyone is waiting for. This is the 1 o'clock game. This is the game of the week, in my opinion, and we're getting it at 1 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
You got it surrounded with 7 other football games, but that's okay. This is when you kind of wish it was flexed, right? But you got the hurricane coming in. It's going to be nasty weather in Baltimore as the Buffalo Bills, my preseason prediction to win the Super Bowl, go into Baltimore to play the league MVP right now, Lamar Jackson. This is a game.
Mm-hmm.
Your thoughts? I'll let you go first, so it doesn't look like it. I've went first too many times. I apologize.
No,
Kyle, on you, brother.
So this one, I guess if this was like week 1, I'd go Buffalo because I was a bigger fan of Josh Allen. I've always been one of those who's been a proponent that Lamar Jackson has to show me more throwing the ball before I can put him up there because I know what he can do with running the ball. and he's good with like slants and all that. But you can definitely see this year that Lamar Jackson has become a better passer, and he still has the running element, but I feel like he doesn't necessarily rely on it as much as he did his first couple of years in the NFL. I think Buffalo is still going to be reeling from that Miami loss because I saw some things in Josh Allen that we hadn't seen so far this year. Because I know a lot of people were talking about the last drive where he skipped the pass or whatever. But if you look at the end of the first half, when he was going to spike the ball and he like fumbled it and then just threw a pass out to the right that almost was a pick six, that's when I started to realize that that game wasn't going to be Buffalo's game. So I think in this matchup, Buffalo likes to, you know, get up at the line, blitz, and all that kind of stuff. But with Lamar, if you get to him and you don't bring him down, you are in serious trouble. And I think that's what's going to happen Sunday against Buffalo. So I'm taking the Ravens in that one.
All right, so I'm gonna bring you back to Orchard Park. I'm gonna
Okay.
bring you back to Orchard Park when the Buffalo Bills went against the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar's MVP season.
Mm-hmm.
And Buffalo, I think they lost the game 16-10. It was 2 years ago, but it was the first time we had seen anyone slow down Lamar Jackson. Sean McDermott has the blueprint on slowing him down. He plays man coverage on those wide receivers and he blitzes from all different angles to slow down Lamar Jackson. But I will tell you this. Lamar Jackson spent the entire offseason. I'm not a Ravens fan, but I know this. John Harbaugh's connected in Philadelphia. I'm a huge proponent in NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Spent the entire offseason trying to understand what Miami did to him on Thursday Night Football last year when they just constantly were sending blitzes at him and making him throw the ball up in the air. I think this will be a way I think this will be a way better game. But with that being said, I still think the better football team is the Buffalo Bills. I think the Bills will stop you from running the football. And I think that the receiving core of Baltimore with Bateman and Duvernay are just not good enough to get it done in the secondary by their lonesome. I think the Buffalo Bills win this football game. You got to look at that Buffalo defensive line. You got Von Miller, which everyone knows about. But
Right.
what a lot of people forget about is Gregory Rousseau, who was their first-round draft pick from last year. Absolute monster. Ed Oliver, their first-round draft pick from 3 years ago at the defensive tackle position. Absolute monster. They have strength in their front seven. That strength that will stop almost any team's rushing attack. They play on the other side of the line of scrimmage. And I think that's a bad recipe for Baltimore. I think with the rain, I think with the slippery, you're not going to have Lamar Jackson being able to cut as much as he'd like to. I think that this is an ugly game, and I think it's a 16-10 Buffalo win. See, I brought back the Orchard Park history, and we're going to inverse the score. And I got Buffalo winning 16-10.
The only thing with the Buffalo defense that I guess would worry me in this one is Micah Hyde not being there.
Yep.
And Jordan Poyer is a little hobbled. That's the only thing that I would worry about for Buffalo.
And then I don't think Trey Day's back yet. Tre'Davious White, man. Tre'Davious White, all-world cornerback. I think he's still out also. So I think 3/4 of their secondary is very hobbly. And I understand that. And if we were going against like Tampa Bay this week and Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are healthy, or we were going against Cincinnati this week with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, I think Buffalo's backup cornerbacks will have little to no problem slowing down Devin Duvernay and Rashad Bateman. I don't think that I love Bateman. I really do. I think Bateman's got a good career in the NFL.
Yeah.
But I don't think that their receiving core is that strong. And I think that Mark Andrews will constantly be stuck in the backfield trying to block for Lamar Jackson with all the pressure that Buffalo sends. But hey, opinions are opinions. You got the other side to me. So I respect it. And we'll see what happens. We got 5 more games in the docket in 15 minutes. We're going to get this out. I guarantee you guys. So you can watch it Thursday Night Football. Cardinals, Panthers. Carolina is a 1.5 point favorite. What are your thoughts?
That did surprise me. Now, Carolina, they're coming off a good win. Baker Mayfield's been slow starting. McCaffrey kind of slow starting, although McCaffrey played a little better last week. Uh, Cardinals, you have Kyler Murray, AJ Green. Um, well, I mean, no DeAndre Hopkins, but I don't care. The Cardinals have been so up and down this year. Like I was expecting the Cardinals to be one of those top teams in the NFC, and maybe they're slowly getting there because we know Kyler Murray had his offseason with all of his, you know, shenanigans. But I like the Cardinals in this one. I think it's close, but I just think with J.J. Watt and trying to think who else they have on that defensive line with him. There's a name I'm missing, but J.J. Watt will be able to put some pressure on Baker Mayfield, and I think they'll force at least a turnover from
I'll,
Baker.
listen, at the end of the day, I don't necessarily disagree with you as far as Baker Mayfield turning the football over. Out of 32 starting quarterbacks, he's ranked 32nd.
Yeah.
34 qualified quarterbacks, he's ranked 32nd in quarterback rating. I don't necessarily have that much faith in the Carolina Panthers. However, the Arizona Cardinals have played one good half of football in 3 games. They got
Right.
decimated by the Chiefs. They got embarrassed last week offensively versus the Los Angeles Rams, and they were shut out for a half of football versus the Raiders, who don't have a win yet.
Mm-hmm.
End up getting all those points in the second half. I think Arizona has the worst coach in the NFL, Cliff Kingsbury. I've been on record saying I think that he is awful and they need to get rid of him. You want to talk about a guy that made his entire career off of recruiting Patrick Mahomes. He got
Right.
Patrick Mahomes at Texas Tech. That got him his job. He got the number 1 overall pick. Took insanely talented Kyler Murray. And Kyler Murray has regressed since
Mm-hmm.
he's come out of the draft. I think that it's an absolute joke that no coach has sat him down and helped him develop and become a better quarterback in the NFL. Kyler Murray is super talented. We should
Yeah.
be talking about him or Lamar Jackson. We're not. We're not at this point. We're talking about Call of Duty. We're talking about him not being focused.
Yeah.
I hate what that Arizona Cardinals organization and their culture looks like. I think if you want to see losses and failure, you look at that Arizona organization. I'm going to take the Panthers just because I believe Baker Mayfield is in a better mindset right now than Kyler Murray. I think that the Carolina Panthers playing at home, coming off a win. Arizona's got to go across the country. I'll take the Panthers in this one.
Yeah. I mean, it's not something I'm
We
confident in,
disagree
but
a little bit.
yeah. I'm not
I
confident in
hear
the
you.
Cardinals pick, but that's what I'll stick with.
We got to get into it. I won't take too much of your time talking about, unless you want to.
Okay.
Patriots at Packers. This game could have been a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is going to be an absolute Lambeau blowout. I believe it. I think that Romeo Dubes is starting to emerge as a young wide receiver. I still think you're going to see Christian Watson improve. Alan Lazard, you got a 2-headed running game. Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon. The Packers defense has looked better and better each week. Absolutely destroying Tampa Bay, only allowing 12 points versus the GOAT in Tampa.
Mm-hmm.
I really like the Packers in this one. I think this one's ugly.
I mean, as a Patriots fan, I can be practical. So I'm not expecting the Patriots to win this game. For me, their only avenue to win this one would be the, Christian Barmore, Josh Uche, and those guys up front get at Rodgers' feet, make them uncomfortable. The secondary is decent. Linebacking group probably has the most speed that they've had in past seasons. So they'll be able to fly around kind of in the intermediate and make tackles. But all my questions are going to be offensively. What is going to be the game plan for Brian Hoyer? How much is there going to be, relying on Ramondre Stevenson and Damian Harris in the backfield? But then today's NFL, if you're one dimensional, any defense can game plan against that. So I'm expecting to get Green Bay to force Hoyer to make plays in the passing game. Devontae Parker has been good. Jacoby Myers has been hobbled. So yeah, I'd go with the Packers in this one. It'll probably be a
Uh,
tough watch for us Patriots fans, but all
I,
part
I
of the
really,
process.
I will say this, dude. I really do like Ramondre Stevenson. I,
Yeah.
I think he has every ability to be a 3-down back in New England. I think he should be your bell cow. I think you need to make Damian Harris back into a backup running back, which he should be. He's a very good backup. He might be one of the best backups in
Hmm.
football, but he's not a starter. Ramondre Stevenson has the ability to be a starter.
I think that's what we're kind of seeing this year.
I
I
agree.
think
I agree.
Ramondre gets more carries, but they kind of split it like 60-40 just to keep them fresh. But yeah.
3 more games on the docket.
All right.
Broncos at Raiders. 2-1 Broncos. Broncos country. Let's ride. Yo, by the way, Russell Wilson's a creepy ass dude, bro. You see this Subway commercial, man? It's a little
No, I haven't
real
seen.
weird commercial, bro. He's a creepy. I feel like he's a serial killer or something. Like there's something wrong with that, man. I know you've seen the Mr. Everything bullshit he used to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
I'm not, I think that Nathaniel, if Cliff Kingsbury isn't the worst coach in football, it's Brandon Staley or Nathaniel Hackett. One of
Hmm.
those two, because I think Nathaniel Hackett is trash. You're talking about a 2-1 team going on the road to play an 0-3 Raiders team, and the Raiders team is favored. You want to know why? Because the Raiders are going to kick the shit out of Broncos. Broncos have no business being 2-1. Their offense looks absolutely stagnant. They want to make Russell Wilson into Aaron Rodgers, which he's not.
Hmm.
You can't run the same offense you ran in Green Bay with Russell Wilson. You just can't do it. It doesn't work. You have Javonte Williams, Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, Russell Wilson, all that talent with a defense that's very good,
Yeah.
and you look terrible.
Exactly.
I think Derek Carr and Devontae Adams get right this week. I really do. I think the Raiders blow out the Broncos. This is probably my play of the week. Give me the Raiders by 100. They beat them by 100 points. I'm kidding. But,
I
like,
know.
give me the
Yeah.
Raiders big.
So here's the funny thing. I actually had the Broncos as my Super Bowl pick coming into the season for the same reason you just mentioned. Russell Wilson, Cortland Sutton, all that. That should be good enough. And then the defense we saw in that ugly game against San Francisco. I mean,
Isn't that what the
they
worst game you've ever watched, like, in a long time?
it was rough. And then
Terrible.
yeah, you throw in the safety from Garoppolo, the Broncos offense is getting booed off the field with every 3 and out. Yeah, it was tough. But I guess only because I made them my Super Bowl pick, I'm still holding out hope for Denver. I think the defense in this one keeps it close enough that Russell Wilson makes some late game heroics and they get the win. That's the only thing I can hold on to with Denver at this point.
I will say this. The line of the week is Eli Manning on Monday Night Football talking about, I think it was it Monday Night Football? I believe. They played on Sunday night.
Mhm.
But he goes, I think they should have gave the punter $255 million.
He was the MVP of that game
Yeah.
easily.
But it was just a very awful football game. But
Yeah.
all right, well, got 2 games left on the docket. You got the Chiefs at Buccaneers. A lot of talk about where this game will be played. They just announced today that they're going to keep it in Tampa. It looks like the Storm will be out of Tampa Bay by then.
Mhm.
Tampa Bay will be traveling back in from Miami where they've been practicing all week. Chiefs coming off a loss. Buccaneers coming off a loss. Playing in Tampa Bay, a rematch of Super Bowl just 2 years ago. Mike Evans will be back. Chris Godwin will be back. Julio Jones will be back. Will this be enough for the GOAT to beat Patrick Mahomes, the baby GOAT again?
Once again, went back and forth on this one. I mean, know how much I love Brady as a Patriots fan. It pains me to say I'm going with the Chiefs. Um, I always look at the first like 3 to 4 weeks with Brady led teams. He's kind of just figuring stuff out. So I think this will be the last week we probably see them look like they had so far, and then you'll see next week they'll look like a completely different team, and they'll look like the Super Bowl contenders that they should be. But I'm just going with the Chiefs only because that loss last week to the Colts, that doesn't really derail them too much. They'll be back, Kelsey and all those guys, and I think they'll do enough to win that game, even with the being in Tampa Bay, all the emotions that'll be behind it. But I'll go with Kansas City.
I like the Chiefs also. I do. You said it perfectly. Brady in September or first week of October just isn't where he needs to be at.
Right.
Brady becomes Brady in November and December, and
Yep.
I agree with you 100%. I think that the Buccaneers will run away with that division. I think that division stinks. I think that they do not need this game as much as Kansas City does. I
Right.
think Kansas City wants to extend that lead in that AFC West. I like Kansas City in this one. I really do. I think that Andy Reid has been preparing for this game for a while after
Hmm.
that blowout. Patrick Mahomes been waiting for this game. I think it'll be a good test for that Buccaneers defense, but I think that the Kansas City Chiefs offense will be a little bit too much.
Yep.
And the last game on the docket before you guys get to Monday or Thursday Night Football, which starts just in 4 minutes, is Monday Night Football. It's also one of my picks this week. The Los Angeles Rams head into the San Francisco 49ers. I like the 49ers in this one. I like them big. Let me just make a point real quick, and then I'll pass the rock right to you. The 49ers defense looks incredible, right? They looked
Hmm.
great last week. They've looked good every week. You can't fault them for what happened in that monsoon versus Chicago.
Yep.
They absolutely beat the dog shit out of Seattle. They looked great last week versus Denver, even in a losing effort. Wasn't their fault at all. Take it a step further. Do you know that they took Jimmy Garoppolo's playbook away?
Yeah, that was such a weird story in the offseason.
They, even though he was on the roster, they expected him to be somewhere else. Did
Yeah.
not let him train with the team. Did not give him the playbook. They did not want to give him anything until they made that signing with him and
Hmm.
changed his contract a week before the season started. Then he sits on the bench behind Trey Lance, has to come into a game that is already happening when Trey Lance gets hurt, which, by the way, 49ers were my NFC pick to go to the Super Bowl with Trey Lance,
Yeah.
not with Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo is that good. Last week was his first full week preparation as the starter.
Hmm.
You got to play at Mile High versus that defense.
Right.
I got a stat for you. How many wins do you think Sean McVay has versus Kyle Shanahan?
I'm gonna go. Does he
His,
have one?
he has one. It was the NFC
Okay,
Championship game last year.
that's
That
right.
was the
Yeah.
only time that Sean McVay has beat Kyle Shanahan. And I'll tell you right now, they had no business winning that football game. I think
Yeah.
the Rams went on a fluke run to win the Super Bowl last year, which, by the way, I predicted it when they signed Matthew Stafford, but I think it was a very fluky run.
Hmm.
Jaquiski Tart drops that interception, and that game's over.
Yep.
I like the 49ers, and I like the 49ers big in this one. I really do. I think Matt Stafford has another 3-interception game. I think he turns the ball over again. I think he's having trust issues with his wide receivers. I don't know what it is about Matt Stafford, man. Can't throw the ball to anybody that's not white. It's kind of weird. It's kind of
Yeah.
weird to me.
They
Like,
did
it's a
all that to
weird
bring
thing, right?
Allen Robinson there, and he won't look at
Ex-
he won't look his way. I don't get that
he's
either.
throwing the ball to Ben Skoranek over Allen Robinson. Like, we know Allen
I-
Robinson's a very good wide
Right.
receiver.
Yeah.
Get him the football. Last year was Bobby Trees. He had issues throwing the ball to Robert Woods. He's throwing the ball to Cooper Kupp, Ben Skoranek, Tyler Higbee. It's kind of weird to me at this point, bro. I think it's getting a little bit like I'm not saying that he's doing this and it's just weird. I don't
Right.
like it.
Yeah. It just
Um,
doesn't make any sense.
I don't think they get it together. I'll take the San Francisco 49ers.
Well, I guess we'll end the show kind of where we've been all night. I'm with the 49ers as well. Uh, I just think Debo Samuel, Ayuk, and those guys. I think Garoppolo plays a little better this week because, like you said, he's just now getting into the flow. And yeah, Stafford, he hasn't impressed me this season. He still does those like no look sidearm passes, and yeah, I'm just not with it so far. I mean, Donald is still a beast, but Jalen Ramsey's had a few games where he struggled, although he played pretty well last week. But yeah, I trust San Francisco in their system more than I do the Rams right now. So I agree with you and Cool because Cool is going 49ers as well.
Yo, Cool was the man. I appreciate you, Cool, being in the chat all night. I appreciate everybody listening in. We are going to do a way better job with this show. Kyle just got added on like this morning,
Yeah,
maybe yesterday. Listen, man, we're gonna grow this show. Pregaming Pigskin is going to be a huge show. We've done this before. We'll do it again. Wire to Wire Sport Podcast, my show. Kyle, you have anything that you like to plug? Any shows that you do outside here?
yeah. I mean, I do the Big Three podcast
Big
on
three.
here Tuesday nights. I have my show Chomping at the Bit on my YouTube channel, Chomping at the Bit, and I also do JJL Sports Talk Show on Fridays. So that's where you can find me.
Bro, Kyle's all over the planet, man. Just destroying it. Big Three Podcast is huge if you haven't heard it. Kyle, I appreciate you hopping on here last minute. Appreciate you running the
Absolutely.
stream. We're gonna absolutely grow this show. We'll get bigger and bigger each week.
Yep.
I appreciate that. Let's enjoy this Amazon Prime game and go Bengals.
Exactly. Bengals got this one.
Take care, ladies and gentlemen. Take care.
All right.